Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christies tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry, Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight, and in this first hour we're going to do a dedicated programme on the attempted assassination of President Donald Trump. Was this appalling assault a security failure? Has the media demonisation of Donald Trump paved the way for this attack? And what now for the outcome of the election in November and the future of American democracy? I'll be speaking to Trump insiders, former advisors, friends, and one or two opponents along the way. And I'll be catching up with Anne Widdecombe at the end of the hour to ask whether an attack like this could happen in the United Kingdom on a Prime Minister or on a leader of the opposition. And to hear my thoughts on this shocking attack, join me for my take at 10 at the top of the next hour. What happened to Donald Trump last night was an attack on ideas, an attack on debate, an attack on free speech, and an attack on democracy. For anyone who believes in freedom, it was an attack on us all. Plus tonight, happier news. We'll be bringing you the latest from England in the Euros final against Spain with our brilliant and highly energetic reporter Anna Riley, who's doing a great job tonight. And she joins me throughout for all of the action. And after 10, Big Sam Allardyce joins me to celebrate or commiserate. Plenty to get through, but first I'm joined live in the studio by a spokesperson for Republicans Overseas UK, Jennifer Ewing. Jennifer, you love your country. You live in the UK, but you are American. From California, yes. Carmel, beautiful coastal town.
Absolutely, yes. Actually, kind of has an English feel to it. And it's probably most well known for the golf courses of Pebble Beach and Cypress and, Spanish Bay, but also Clint Eastwood, keeping with the political thing. Clint Eastwood was our mayor in the 80s, and he was a great mayor. And even to this day, he still lives there. He owns a few restaurants, a place called the Mission Ranch, and he's 93 years old. He's still very much out and about.
So you love your country.
I do.
How do you feel about your country, given what happened almost 24 hours ago? What are your emotions at this stage?
This is, obviously, it's been a busy media day, which I've not done anything until this point. And I was part of the reason I was on a plane, but also, it's different, right, than the typical stories we've been doing, whether it's indictments or debates, that sort of thing. It's very sad.
It's more human this time, isn't it?
Very, very, and it's very dark. It's shocking, but it's not surprising. You can feel the temperature that's been raising, the rhetoric, the very, the rhetoric. And while there is, the shooter is responsible for what happened, I think a lot of the rhetoric definitely coming from the left has raised the temperature to such a degree that if people, whether it's the media or even the president himself, are constantly calling Trump Hitler or, a threat to democracy, somebody's going to believe that.
Yes, if you demonize someone, they will perceive that person as a demon, and it won't be surprising if some crazy lunatic tries to take them out.
That's exactly right. Yes.
What happened? OK, folks, have we got Seb Gorka ready to go? OK, well, I'm delighted to welcome one of America's best-known political broadcasters and friend and top advisor to Donald Trump when he was in the White House, Sebastian Gorka. Mr. Gorka, thank you so much for joining us. Have you made contact with President Trump or his people? How is he doing?
I'm not bothering my former boss directly, but I've been texting with his children, with Eric, Don Jr., with Lara Trump, his daughter-in-law, and it's incredible. He was on the golf course this afternoon, and 30 minutes ago, he was encouraged to delay his participation in a big presidential nomination convention this week in Milwaukee by 2 days. And he said, I'm not going to let this change my plans. He got on Trump Force One about 20 minutes ago, and he's flying to Milwaukee. So I just Churchillian, utterly Churchillian. It's like Patton, indomitable, just truly. The man was shot yesterday, and he's going to be in Milwaukee at the convention in about 40 minutes.
Truly remarkable. Where were you when this attack happened, Sebastian?
Well, as you can tell, these aren't my usual togs. I was on the first day of my hauls. I was in the forests of New Hampshire, and I was heading out to dinner with my son, his fiance, and my wife. And then my wife was reading her phone in this backcountry road and said, the president's been shot. So we turned around, and this is, I think, probably my 20th interview in the last 18 hours.
Most definitely. Well, it's good to see country, Gorka, and of course your holiday has been interrupted by this appalling attack, but we do have the good news that Donald Trump has survived, and as you've suggested there in your previous answer, he's come out fighting. Will he leverage what happened yesterday to his own political advantage?
I don't think he has to. If you look at the disastrous events of the last 10 days for Joe Biden with the NATO summit, the disastrous debate performance, calling Zelensky Putin twice, calling Kamala Harris his Vice President Trump. My former boss was trouncing the incumbent in every poll, even in the battleground states. So there's no need for him to leverage this. I think he will remain presidential. He's even said he might tone down a little bit of the rhetoric for his acceptance speech in Milwaukee. And beyond that, I just think it's going to, he doesn't have to, because there will be such an outpouring of sympathy. I mean, just go to my Twitter account. I keep reposting these Democrats who have said, okay, I've been a lifelong Democrat. I've voted for Biden, but this party has gone nuts. This is the result of calling President Trump Hitler for 8 years, and I'm voting for Donald Trump. So I think that will be a natural tidal flow of new support from independents, from the middle, and from former Democrats who have just said, this party, the Democrat Party, is not JFK's party. This isn't even the party of Bill Clinton. It's been taken over by radicals, and we've had enough.
Most definitely. Sebastian, do last night's events make it more difficult now for the Democratic Party to remove Joe Biden?
It's an interesting question. Look, it is nigh impossible to remove an incumbent president against their volition. We have the 25th Amendment, but that requires a two-thirds vote of the cabinet plus the vice president and then the Congress to remove him against his will. Jill Biden is the stumbling block. She wants to remain the first lady. So this puts the pressure on him maybe, or gives him an out to say, oh my gosh, I don't know what's happened to our party, and I'm just going to go and spend time with my family, even though he doesn't know how many grandchildren he has, thanks to the escapades of Hunter Biden in certain strip joints in Washington, D.C. It might give him an out, but at the end of the day, we know he's not compos mentis. We know that this man had 2 brain aneurysms before he became president. So is he thinking rationally? Impossible to tell.
OK, let me briefly interrupt with something far less important than that, but it is the Euros, and Spain have scored. We'll get the latest from Anna Riley. It's currently 1-0 to Spain against England in the Euros. Sebastian, will US mainstream media, who have demonised Donald Trump hitherto, have to change their approach now?
No. Just watch the coverage of the last 24 hours. They're doubling down. I mean, it is galling. It is utterly galling that the same people who peddled for 7 years the Russia collusion hoax, the Charlottesville hoax, he's a misogynist, white supremacist, anti-Semite, despite his daughter converting to Judaism, despite him moving the embassy to Jerusalem. They're doubling down. As we speak, they're blaming President Trump's rhetoric for his being shot. It is beyond the pale. So no apologies. No apologies for calling him, Hitlerian for the last 8 years. No apologies for the last 2 years of them saying, if the American people choose Donald Trump again, it's the end of democracy. This has been the clarion call. Democracy is in danger. Not trying to assassinate the leader of the opposition. That's not a threat to democracy. The people re-electing him is the threat to democracy. So sad to say, I wasn't expecting anything else. The mainstream lying legacy media has had no pangs of conscience and is doubling down.
Sebastian, I'm going to come back to you in just 1 minute's time, and I'm going to bring in Jennifer Ewing from Republicans Overseas UK. So stay with us, Seb Gorka and Jen Ewing. But first, let's head to one of the fan parks and the brilliant Anna Riley, who's watching the Euros. And Anna, not the best start for England. What's happened?
It's not, Mark. No, currently we are 50 minutes in and Spain have scored. It's 1-0. It's not what we wanted for England. Spain are a formidable side and sadly they have scored 1 goal. But there is still a lot of positivity here. I'm at the Hull fan zone. You might be able to just see, we've just popped out because it's so noisy, but you'll be able to see just behind us here, there is 1,400 fans that are watching the game. You can see they're very patriotic. It's a sea of white and red, but you can see they're also concentrating hard on the game, hoping that England they've got the ball back now, but hoping that England can score that goal. We know as well as it been a fantastic evening for fans alike. It's also a great boost for the pub industry here. Like I say, it's packed out, 1,400 fans all paying for tickets to get into places like this. And apparently there's going to be 10 million pints poured throughout the game by pubs, and it's going to be generating a revenue of 50 million. So win or lose, it's still good for the pub industry. But come on, England.
Well, Anna Riley, I think your positive energy is going to earn us an equaliser. Keep up the brilliant work and we'll catch you in a couple of minutes. My thanks to our fantastic reporter, Anna Riley. There you go, England losing 1-0, but plenty of time and plenty to play for. OK, let's bring back former presidential advisor when he was in the White House to Donald Trump, Sebastian Gorka, and to a spokesperson from Republicans Overseas UK, Jennifer Ewing. Sebastian, Donald Trump is a man you admire, a man that you endorse as the next president of the United States, but he's your friend too. What were your emotions as you watched that footage yesterday, to see him bloodied, to see him injured, and to see him almost lose his life?
Dumbstruck, truly dumbstruck, because he has no excuse for his toughness. People ask me where I get my pugilistic nature from. It's because my father was arrested and tortured by communists and given a life sentence behind the Iron Curtain. President Trump has none of that baggage. He doesn't have, family that escaped from Cuba or from North Korea. He's an American billionaire, self-made billionaire, and a TV reality, superstar. So the fact that this man not only gets shot, then as the Secret Service just pounce on him, he brushes them aside, puts up his fist and says, "Fight, fight, fight." It's like Ajax. It's like some character out of ancient Greek mythology. I mean, the quintessence of the warrior. And about an hour ago, I tweeted this out with that photograph with the fist raised. And I said, is there a braver human being that we know of right now who actually, as they're trying to manhandle him into the armored SUV, says, "Hang on, guys. I want to get my shoes and put my shoes back on and tell the American people that everything's okay." I mean, to have that presence of mind, he's 25 years older than me. I don't think I'd have the presence of mind to be shot in the head and then duck and then get up tell my security team, hang on, guys, and then send a signal to the American people. I'm gobsmacked. There is no better phrase. Flabbergasted, gobsmacked. This guy is genetically a warrior type we haven't seen since the likes of Churchill or Patton.
Jennifer Ewing, how does what happened yesterday change the complexion of the race for the White House?
Well, I think, and, you know, following up a little bit what Seb said is, I mean, that reaction that Trump had, you know, that's innate. You can't learn that fight or flight. And we know he's a fighter. He actually said fight a few times. And that incredible bravery, leadership, I think it's something, especially after the disastrous NATO summit or Biden's participation in it, that not only the United States, but the rest of the world has been missing. And how this changes the outlook of the election is, I think more and more people will now have a visible, especially with that one iconic picture already with Trump and the Secret Service and the flag in the background. And people are like, this is what we need right now. We need a strong leader, a patriot, an American who's willing to give it all. And good for him. And while none of this should have ever happened, I think there will be some good come out of it. We're already starting to see a few what you'd call shy Trump voters. Elon Musk, to name one, Bill Ackman, another one who's an activist investor, come out and very strongly say they support Donald Trump. And these are probably not people who would have voted, whether it's Republican or for Trump in the past, but they know, you know, we're at the point right now that this is the man the world needs right now. And I think we're going to get him on November 5th.
Briefly, Seb Gorka, we'll let you get back to your fly fishing. Will the money start pouring in now? We know that Donald Trump has broken all sorts of records for fundraising in the course of this campaign, but it'll be money no object in the weeks ahead, won't it?
That's a fascinating question. If we look at the guilty verdict, that netted him something like $200 million in 8 days after the verdict. So I think he's going to blow it up this time. I think it'll be even more than that. You know, it's not just the sympathy of the vote; it's the sympathy. I want this guy to win. So I haven't even thought about that for the last 18 hours. But I don't like to do predictions. But I think this will make the influx of hundreds of millions of dollars after the New York court decision seem like a trip to the candy store. It's going to be monumental.
Seb Gorka, a privilege to have you on the show. Thank you for making the time. Friend of Donald Trump, former advisor to Donald Trump when he was in the White House. Of course, very popular radio broadcaster as well. I'm delighted to say that Jennifer Ewing from Republicans Overseas UK is going to stay with me. And next up, we're going to have a look at the impact on Donald Trump as a person. Yes, he's a political phenomenon, but he's a human being too. This is a trauma, isn't it? Will it be a setback? Will we see a different Donald Trump in the weeks and months ahead? I'll be asking America's psychiatrist, Dr. Carol Lieberman, next.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Question is,
should our museums stay free for everyone and anyone, or should we be charging our tourists?
So many of the artifacts are from around the world, stolen actually. I think it's almost to add insult to injury to ask people to pay to see the artifacts that were taken without their permission. One of the things that the museum set itself up for is a kind of world heritage where you can see the stuff they took from your country free of charge, because the British state's willing to do that. Is one of the reasons why we hold on to many of the artifacts from around the world instead of giving them back.
I mean, that's a noble argument, Wayman, but none of the other countries in the world that also contain artefacts from all over the world indulge in that, do they? We still have to pay to see anything that's come from the UK that might be overseas?
No, but the absolute truth is that we've stolen a lot more over many more years than anybody else, because we're a very, we had a very, very big empire, and during that time, taking things from other countries without their permission
And I think our wonderful country, the United Kingdom, is the cradle of modern civilization, not of the ancient world, but of the modern world. You know, for centuries, we've contributed things to the world which has spread out around the world, and the influence that we've put upon countries around the globe has been massively significant. I think it's a privilege for people to be able to come to this country and track the history of our country through our museums. I can't understand why they've ever been free. The upkeep of museums runs into hundreds of millions of pounds a year. Somebody's got to maintain them and keep them good. Somebody's got to go around the world and collect the artifacts which are in our museums. And I've always had the adage in life, if something is free, it's probably not worth having.
The People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
America's psychiatrist on the trauma to Donald Trump of that attempted assassination in just a moment. But with me in the studio is a spokesperson for Republicans Overseas UK, Jennifer Ewing. Jennifer, how do the Republican movement react to this event, this attack on Donald Trump? Will there be a change of strategy from party insiders?
I don't believe so. And kind of like Seb said earlier, we don't need to. You know, the entire thing speaks for itself. I mean, the way that Donald Trump reacted to this, again, you know, just like stood up with his fist in the air, fight. I mean, he doesn't need to do this. He's a very wealthy man. You know, he's not a, you know, a lifetime politician. He really believes in this. And he really believes that, you know, we've seen all of this lawfare thrown at him. Yes. He's been indicted twice. I mean, we had the Russian hoax, you know, that we know the Hillary Clinton campaign started years ago.
Which was a big fat lie.
Which was a big fat lie. There are people, I mean, Mark, there are people who still believe that. So this is the man we need right now. His reaction was fantastic. And, you know, we're really pleased to be going into November with Donald Trump.
Well, I'm going to speak now to one of the most renowned psychotherapists in the world. It's Dr. Carol Lieberman, whose esteem is so high in the United States. She is known as America's psychiatrist. And Dr. Carol, a privilege to have you on the show. How much of a trauma will this be for President Trump? We know that he's a robust individual, but he came close to losing his life last night.
Yes. You know, what he suffered was a life-threatening experience, which is the first qualification criteria that you need to develop PTSD. But not everybody who experiences a life-threatening situation develops PTSD. Now, I think with Donald Trump, the most important thing was his initial reaction. You know, as I was telling you yesterday, that not only was that a strong sign for the world that when he got up, he continued to put himself at risk, and he's, you know, going fight, 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 which really was his way of telling Americans, you know, that you need to keep on fighting. If something ever happens to me, fight, fight, fight. Those are my last words, kind of thing. Those are my, you know, that's what I want you to remember. And so he has, you know, he's in the midst of this campaign. You have the end of the campaign in a sense, and that motivation to keep because he really loves America and to keep wanting to be president to make America great again. That will help to not allow him to go deep into what he could go deep into. In other words, you know, if people think of themselves as victims, and they just kind of lapse into this their disorder or their feeling of themselves. Oh, I almost died, and he's not going to be like that. He showed it right at the beginning, and I think he's going to put more of his heart and soul into winning, and that is going to really help him be a protective factor from sinking into some kind of a psychiatric problem.
Dr. Carroll, he's not superhuman, he's not Superman. Will he need counselling? Will there be support for President Donald Trump, and will he accept it?
Well, I think he would be hard-pressed to accept it. My number, he can call me.
Yeah.
The number to call in New York.
Can he afford you, Carol?
I'll do it complimentary for free for him. I mean, because it helps me too. I want him to become president.
Sure.
But, it is hard for a man like Trump to give up control to a therapist. Even, let's just say, not a presidential candidate or a past president, just anybody. If it's someone who needs to be in control all the time, it's hard for them to give up control to a therapist enough to try to go into what their problems are, because he would feel, consciously or unconsciously, he would feel that if he allows himself to sort of wallow in it, that will take away from his ability to be strong and finish the campaign as a winner.
Most definitely. Now, his wife Melania made a very moving statement, Carol. Let me read it to you if I can. Producer Maria has printed this one out for me. And here's what she had to say about her husband and that attack on him yesterday, early evening in the United States, last night in the UK. Melania Trump, former First Lady, said, "When I watched that violent bullet strike my husband, Donald, I realised my life and Barron's were on the brink of devastating change." Of course, Barron is his 18-year-old son. "I'm grateful to the brave Secret Service agents and law enforcement officials who risked their own lives. A monster who recognised my husband as an inhuman political machine attempted to wring out Donald's passion, his laughter, ingenuity, love of music and inspiration. The core facets of my husband's life, his human side, were buried below the political machine." Would you care to interpret that statement? What strikes me as the headline is that this is a woman who admires and loves her husband.
Yes, it is so heartfelt, and the words that she chooses and all of that shows that she really does love him. People have speculated from time to time, oh, is she going to divorce him and all of that? Now, it just certainly doesn't sound like she would, except for the fact when she said, she might have she does have some concern now, understandably, that she and Barron are at risk.
Yeah.
Which might make her think about, should I divorce him? Should I protect Barron? Of course, they wouldn't be protected in any case. Even if she divorced him, people could still try to get to her in order to get to him, even if they were divorced, which I really don't think she's going to do. But what's interesting is, you probably saw this just recently in Florida. Trump introduced his son, Barron, at a rally. And Barron stood up. It was the first time that he had done this. And Barron stood up and he smiled and he, was very proud to sort of be introduced. And it's really sad for Barron that this happened so soon after that, because there he was feeling proud, not only to be Trump's son, but to be introduced into this political arena. And now he's seeing that, there's some danger that comes with that. So it was unfortunate that it came so close and spoiled some of that pure joy.
Carol, I'd like to bring Jennifer Ewing into this conversation in just a moment from Republicans Overseas UK. But you mentioned the family there. You mentioned Barron, who's 18. Donald Trump has 5 children. Can you tell me about how traumatic it is for the kids to see that footage of their father attacked in such a brutal way and possibly risking losing his life? How will it have been for them, and what is the impact on the kids when they see a parent imperiled so much?
Yes. You know, on the one hand, they would have known, they knew that there was this danger because Biden has been really exciting, you know, bringing up the rhetoric of what a bad man Trump is and all that, and inciting violence, really. So they knew at some level that there would be this chance, but at the same time, he's their father, and he is like this to, you know, anybody's father is sort of a perfect man to them and is infallible and strong and nothing could happen to them. And of course, Trump even presents that image even more. So it was a conflict for them. But of course, the positive thing, or the thing that makes it a little less traumatic, is that he rose so quickly from it, you know, that they could tell pretty quickly that he wasn't dead.
Most definitely. Carol, stay with us. I'd like to bring in Jennifer Ewing now from Republicans Overseas. And it's great to have both of you with me. Jennifer, the message from Donald Trump is clear. He's going to fight on. He's going to come back bigger and stronger than ever.
Absolutely, and I'd say in addition to having maybe some sessions with Dr. Carroll on that sofa, I think what's going to get him through this is his faith, really. I mean, you know, that bullet missed him by about 2 millimeters. Yeah. That is probably an act of God. And speaking of his children and how they reacted, I saw something that Ivanka, his daughter, tweeted with regards to she lost her mother, Trump's first wife, 2 years ago yesterday. And she very much said, you know, I know it is my mother who was up there protecting him. So I think I think his faith and his family's faith in whichever, you know, I know Ivanka is converted to Judaism, but, you know, people's faith helped them through in times like this.
Most definitely. Let me read that tweet. Leave it up if you can, Maria and Josh. Ivanka Trump says, 2 years ago today, my mum passed away. I believe she was watching over Dad last night during the attempt on his life. I miss her every day and pray for the safety of the family and friends that she left behind. The tweet goes on, thank you for your love and prayers for my father and for the other victims of today's senseless violence in Butler, Pennsylvania. I'm grateful to the Secret Service and all of the other law enforcement officers for their quick and decisive actions today. I continue to pray for our country. I love you, Dad, today and always. Incredibly moving stuff. Carol, does this awful attack humanize Donald Trump in some people's eyes?
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, I think maybe it will also bring his family closer together as far as like attending certain things. Like Melania hasn't been attending anything in his campaign. There was one thing that she attended, and then she's been missing. And Ivanka hasn't really been around either. And I think that this will make the family, you know, all the members of the family stick closer, you know, come to more events and stick closer with him.
Most definitely. Carol, you know I'm your #1 fan. It's lovely to have you on the show. We will catch up very, very shortly. Let me tell you, we've got an update in the football. Dr. Carol Liedman, thank you. We'll definitely speak soon. That story's not going to go away. We've got an update in the Euros. And the England fans are cheering. Is it coming home? Let me tell you that England have equalised against Spain in the final of the Euros 2024. That is a fan park in London, and they've gone absolutely crazy. Of course they have. It looked like we were down and out, but now England very much back in the game. 74 minutes. So the game in normal time has around 15 minutes to run. And we've got a goal from Palmer, I think with an assist from Bellingham. So there you go. We are back in that game. 1-1, England versus Spain. We'll get Anna Riley to react from the Box Park in London shortly. But lots more on the attempted assassination of President Donald Trump as well. Next up, we've got political strategist and former advisor to several Republican presidential candidates, including President Bush. We're going to be speaking to Brett O'Donnell next.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Many of us are ending this weekend on a reasonably calm note. We do have some clear spells around, particularly across Wales, central southern areas of England, Northern Ireland and western Scotland, also seeing a dry start to the night. There is a bit of rain and drizzle around though for the northeastern areas, particularly developing and pepping up across the Firth of Forth into Edinburgh way during the second half of the night. Many of us though seeing temperatures hold up around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. For your early morning rush hour then on Monday, there will be a little bit of cloud around, certainly for the northeast of Scotland, some drizzle underneath all of that, perhaps some misty, murky conditions, particularly around some coastal areas. But generally further towards the west, there will be some quite bright sunshine first thing. Still though, that drizzle perhaps lingering through the central belt. Northern Ireland getting off to a pretty fine start for this new working week, some sunny spells in there, and also for parts of northern England it will be much brighter compared to recent days that we have seen, feeling a touch better here. For the far south though, it is this area of rain that we have our eyes on. This will be turning very heavy very quickly as we head throughout the morning, with some thundery downpours, possible torrential rain. There could certainly be some difficulties on the roads and travelling, so do take care here. And there is a rain warning in force for southwest England and Wales throughout much of Monday. That will steadily push its way northwards, perhaps skirting into eastern areas as well. Feeling a little cool underneath that rain, 18-19 degrees Celsius, but the northern half of the UK faring quite well, around 20-21 degrees Celsius here, just with an ice or shower to watch out for. Into Tuesday, that area of low pressure that's bringing the rain to the southwest will just sort of slowly grind to a halt across some central areas, so it is still with us. The band of rain will be swirling its way around first thing on Tuesday for parts of Wales, the Midlands, into parts of Yorkshire and Lancashire as well. Behind that, we'll start to see some sunny spells and showers developing again. Some of those will be on the sharp side at times. Wednesday looks like it could be a slightly drier day for many of us, but there is further rain on the cards towards the end of the week. Bye-bye.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled. Lovely.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes. Thank you for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In just a moment, political strategist and former advisor to several Republican presidential candidates, including President Bush. That is Brett O'Donnell with me in just a moment. But with me in the studio is a spokesperson from Republicans Overseas UK, Jennifer Ewing. Jennifer, tomorrow sees the start of the Republican National Congress. That is conference, the RNC. So that's a bit like Tory party conference for the Republicans. And this is when Donald Trump will be officially declared as the candidate for the Republican nominee to run for president.
Correct. So technically right now he's what's called the presumptive nominee.
Right.
And then at the convention he becomes the nominee. He'd originally said after this attempted assassination that he was going to delay his trip to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where it's being held. But then you'll see, and I think Seb mentioned it, he put out, you know what, no, I'm sticking with the plan, I'm going. The other thing to watch out for is he's going to announce his vice president. So that's going to be big news as well.
So Donald Trump, that will probably be his first public address since the attack. Is that right? Is that what we anticipate, that we'll hear from him on that stage at the RNC?
Absolutely, several times. We'll hear, there's former ambassadors going, there's all sorts of congresspeople. You have to be invited to go. My colleague,
Well, Greg Swenson.
Greg Swenson's there. I spoke to him just before I came on. So, all sorts of people. And it's a real, and then the Democrats, of course, will have theirs in August. But, it just really kind of kicks off that last
leg.
And
Nigel Farage, I understand, is going.
Yep.
He's on his way to the States shortly to support his friend, Donald Trump. Who do we think might get that vice presidential Who goes on the ticket?
So I believe it will be the senator from Ohio, J.D. Vance, who actually, what's interesting about him, in 2015, he wrote a book called Hillbilly Elegy, right?
Right.
He's got a beautiful story of, this...
Working class American.
Working class American, for all practical purposes, probably should have ended up in the gutter, but he had tremendous faith. He had good grandparents who raised him, went into the military, and he's a senator for Ohio.
Is he a good fit for Trump?
He's a great fit. I mean, he will,
No temptation to have a woman or somebody of colour?
We don't do identity politics. If he wanted to have a woman or somebody of colour, he would do it. We do know there's a short list. Doug Burgum is the governor of North Dakota on there. Marco Rubio is senator of Florida. That could cause problems to Florida people. But, yeah. That's my call. That's my call.
You heard it here first.
Brett might have a different idea.
I'll be asking Brett O'Donnell in just a moment, but hold fire, folks, because England are playing Spain in the finals of Euro 2024, and Anna Riley can confirm the good news. Anna, I said that your positive energy was going to get us a goal. You've delivered for the country.
I mean, I'll take credit for that, Mark. That's absolutely fine by me. Yes, 76 minutes. We've got that equaliser. Cole Palmer did it for England. And it was a fantastic reception here at the Hull fan zone. Everybody threw the pints up in the air. You can still hear them chanting now. It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere. But what we're waiting for next is another goal. Come on, can we make it to 2-1? Who is going to score next? I'm keeping up this positivity, Mark. Come on, it's coming home. It's got to be, hasn't it?
Come on, England. Anna Riley, I'll catch you in a few minutes for more good news. It could go into extra time, which is another half an hour of football. It could go to penalties at this stage. Anna Riley, who is keeping an eye on the fans there at the Box Park in London. OK, well, following that appalling attack on President Donald Trump and an attempted assassination in Pennsylvania, let's get reaction now from a very, very important man indeed, a political strategist and former advisor to several Republican presidential candidates, including President Bush, Brett O'Donnell. Mr. O'Donnell, thank you so much for joining us. Your reaction to what happened last night?
Well, it's a tragedy, and it ought to shock every American. There's no place for political violence in American politics. We should have vigorous campaigns, but we should settle our differences at the ballot box. And that's what Donald Trump said. And Donald Trump also said that we should be united as Americans, that this is a test of the character of our country. And we'll see which politicians rise to meet that test and which do not. But certainly, this is a tragedy for President Trump, but also for the individual who lost their life and the two individuals that were critically wounded in Pennsylvania. So we wish all of them well.
Now, as you well know, Donald Trump has been demonized on mainstream American media. We've also had the talk show hosts, people like Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert, mocking him endlessly, attacking him night after night after night. Do you think that what happened to Donald Trump yesterday will detoxify his image and show the American public the real Donald Trump, the human being?
Well, let's hope so. It's certainly true that our nation, that America is deeply divided right now, politically divided, and that rhetoric needs to be toned down. Certainly, some of the things that have been said about Donald Trump in terms of his status, convicted felon, but more importantly, that he's a danger to democracy. I think we need to back off some of that rhetoric because that while there are differences on policy, we're all Americans. That should unite us. And hopefully folks will take a step back from that rhetoric. It certainly puts President Biden in a unique bind because for the last few days, he's tried to get on offense away from his terrible debate performance. And he's tried to do that by raising the specter of the rhetoric he's using about Trump.
Mr. O'Donnell, this, of course, isn't the first time that either a former president or a serving president has faced an attempted assassination. In particular, this happened, of course, to President Reagan in the 1980s. And a period of time after an attempted assassination was made, he was making a speech at a venue when a balloon burst. And he reacted so quickly with razor wit and showed a lot of his character and, of course, his keen intelligence. Take a look at this clip, or if you're listening on the radio, take a listen to President Reagan making a speech after he was shot at a few months previously. Take a listen.
We're reminded of the many traditions of openness and democracy that have marked the history of this city. America missed me.
That moment.
I mean, that moment, Brett, demonstrated Ronald Reagan's keen wit and extraordinary intelligence, a very, very bright man, and, of course, an iconic Republican president for America. It was a golden era for America, the Reagan years. Last night, with this attack on Donald Trump and his rather sort of, defiant response straight after with the fist raised in the air, was last night Donald Trump's Ronald Reagan moment?
It may have well been. I mean, it was very Reagan-esque for him to raise his fist in defiance and tell the crowd to keep on fighting. The shot, the image that was taken with Donald Trump's bloodied face with his fist in the air and the American flag waving behind him will certainly become iconic of this campaign. It reminded me not of the Reagan moment, but of the Bush moment in 9/11, when George W. Bush appeared with first responders on the rubble, and the flag was there raised behind him, and he had the bullhorn in hand, speaking to those members of the New York community who had lost loved ones, who were first responders looking for individuals. I feel like that image itself, without any words, will speak volumes to many Americans.
Brett, before you go, very briefly, if you can, we're against the clock, but I know this is a very hard question to answer, but did the security services mess up last night? Was Donald Trump let down?
We need a full investigation of what happened last night. I was not there, and so I'm not going to pass judgment. The Secret Service, law enforcement, are full of brave men and women who put their life on the line every single day. And I certainly don't want to besmirch their character or how they do their job, because I wasn't there and I'm not sure. But there needs to be an investigation to make sure that next time this doesn't happen, and that we up our training, up our ability to keep things like this from happening in the future.
Mr. O'Donnell, I hope we get to speak again in the near future. My thanks to political strategist and former advisor to several Republican presidential candidates, including President Bush, Brett O'Donnell. Thank you so much for your time. Bad news. Spain have scored. That's right. They're now leading England 2-1 in the Euros final. Let's have a look. 88 minutes played, which means that with a bit of injury time, England have got 5 or so minutes to get back into this. But at the moment, it's not coming home. At the moment, England are departing this competition, and it looks like those hearts in the Box Park in London and across the country will be broken. But look, we can but hope. We're on Fergie time now, just a few minutes to go, but currently England are losing to Spain 2-1. OK, more on the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Could something like that happen in the United Kingdom? Of course, we had David Amess, we had Joe Cox. But could a Prime Minister or Leader of the Opposition face a similar attack? I'll be asking Anne Widdecombe next.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
The Royal Academy's annual exhibition has returned for the 256th time to Brighton the summer holidays. It's the world's oldest open submission exhibition. Anyone can enter work to be considered for inclusion. I'm joined now by art critic JJ Charlesworth for his verdict. What is your verdict?
My verdict is you should go and see it. You are confronted with many things of varying quality, selected by artists, and you very much, instead of being given something to you that's supposed to be good, you have to make your own decision.
I went along yesterday, and I personally did see some pictures on the wall that I thought were absolutely stunning. I'm going to mention Peter Akua, which I think is a remark. And now these are the two by Ben Jonson, Grundtvig 1, and we've got one coming out of Berlin Pool. I think that's an absolutely stunning piece of work. And then Claire Douglas should be up. Here we are, Claire Douglas.
Yes.
Souvenir from the Anthropocene.
Yeah.
That last one, actually, a very witty painting.
A piece like that was really interesting. I think it caught a lot of people's eyes because it had very kind of humorous, slightly bleak take on post-Brexit Britain. It's set in this fictitious world of Brummington, which is a sort of loose satire on Birmingham. I thought it was a bit mean.
I think we had maybe Black Lives Matter. We had Boris Johnson. I think our own Jacob Rees-Mogg made his way into the painting.
Yeah, so there was definitely a slant, a political slant, on the part of the artist. But even that said, I thought it was an interesting and enjoyable work, even though maybe you don't agree with the artist on what they're trying to say. And I think that actually made for an interesting moment because you're seeing that people are disagreeing, right? Both through the artwork and in front of artworks.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
We'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Well, let's get further reaction to the attempted assassination of Donald Trump at a rally in Pennsylvania at around 11:15 last night UK time, around 6:15 in Pennsylvania. Anne Widdecombe joins me now, former government minister and best-selling author. Anne, a dark day for democracy.
Yes, it is. And of course, it's not unusual in the United States where there is a gun culture. We think of JFK and then his brother Bobby Kennedy, both assassinated by gun. The culture is there. We have less of that culture here, but equally we have much less intrusive security. And I would remind you of what Matt Millen once said when he was introducing his bodyguard to somebody, and I'm now using direct speech. He said, "This is the man who shoots the man who's just shot me."
Yeah.
I.e., he doesn't prevent it, he reacts afterwards. It's possible, but we don't have quite that sort of culture, and I'm hopeful that we won't have.
Although, do you think some quarters of the press, Anne, are trying to demonise Nigel Farage, the leader of Reform UK, in the way that the US media have dealt with Donald Trump?
Well, yes, I mean, I think they've tried pretty hard, but equally they haven't succeeded. The electoral success of Reform is testament to that. The British tend to be quite resistant if they think they're being manipulated.
Most definitely. And of course, we saw, for example, Nigel Farage attacked during the election campaign. He had beer poured on him. He had a milkshake thrown in his face. And there was a left-wing commentator called Owen Jones who said it was a thing of beauty, an image of Nigel Farage being attacked in such a way, assaulted, he said, should be in an art gallery. I mean, this shouldn't be the level of public discourse, should it?
No, but I'm very grateful that it was just a milkshake. I mean, I've had eggs thrown at me. I once had a custard pie thrust right in my face. These are occupational hazards, but they're of a low level. It is when it gets serious that I think we need to worry. And I don't think our press and media or Owen Jones or anybody else would encourage serious attacks.
And how do you think this attack on Donald Trump is going to impact the outcome of the election in November?
I suspect it will help him, actually. You know, there is such a thing as a sympathy vote. There is such a thing as deep disgust that anybody would resort to this, and therefore a feeling that the victim deserves better. So I suspect, if anything, it will aid his campaign, but clearly that wasn't the aim.
And Anne, what a tragedy that an innocent bystander who's gone to this rally to support Donald Trump, a politician they admire, who they'd like to see leading America, what they imagine to be a man who can save America, they go to a rally and they don't come home.
Well, exactly, and I remember, if I can draw an analogy, the Brighton bomb in 1984. And ordinary party workers, not just the big people by and large escaped, but ordinary party workers lost their lives in that. And, you know, it is a fact that a bystander can become the victim rather than the intended victim.
Anne, it's always a treat to have you on. We'll see you in your normal slot of 10:15 next Sunday. Have a nice evening, Anne. We'll catch up soon. My thanks to Anne Widdicombe there. Bad news, folks. England have lost in the finals of Euro 2024. That's right. England are out. It is Spain who are the winners. Well done, England. It's not coming home, but roll on the World Cup. We'll be back. Thanks to Anna Riley there for a great job at the Box Park in London. OK, folks, my take at 10, my first reaction to the attack on Trump. First, the weather.
That warm feeling inside from Box Spoilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Many of us are ending this weekend on a reasonably calm note. We do have some clear spells around, particularly across Wales, central southern areas of England, Northern Ireland and western Scotland, also seeing a dry start to the night. There is a bit of rain and drizzle around though for the northeastern areas, particularly developing and pepping up across the Firth of Forth into Edinburgh way during the second half of the night. Many of us though seeing temperatures hold up around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. For your early morning rush hour then on Monday, there will be a little bit of cloud around, certainly for the northeast of Scotland, some drizzle underneath all of that, perhaps some misty, murky conditions, particularly around some coastal areas. But generally further towards the west, there will be some quite bright sunshine first thing. Still, though, that drizzle perhaps lingering through the central belt. Northern Ireland getting off to a pretty fine start for this new working week, some sunny spells in there, and also for parts of northern England it will be much brighter compared to recent days that we have seen, feeling a touch better here. For the far south though, it is this area of rain that we have our eyes on. This will be turning very heavy very quickly as we head throughout the morning, with some thundery downpours, possible torrential rain. There could certainly be some difficulties on the roads and travelling, so do take care here. And there is a rain warning in force for southwest England and Wales throughout much of Monday. That will steadily push its way northwards, perhaps skirting into eastern areas as well. Feeling a little cool underneath that rain, 18-19 degrees Celsius, but the northern half of the UK faring quite well, around 20-21 degrees Celsius here, just with an ice or shower to watch out for. Into Tuesday, that area of low pressure that's bringing the rain to the southwest will just sort of slowly grind to a halt across some central areas, so it is still with us. The band of rain will be swirling its way around first thing on Tuesday for parts of Wales, the Midlands, into parts of Yorkshire and Lancashire as well. Behind that, we'll start to see some sunny spells and showers developing again. Some of those will be on the sharp side at times. Wednesday looks like it could be a slightly drier day for many of us, but there is further rain on the cards towards the end of the week. Bye-bye.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
It's our summer treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest cash prize of the year so far. With an extra £30,000 in your bank account this year, you could take the ultimate financial holiday and send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. £30,000 could get you those nagging home improvements done, buy that brand new car, or just enable you to kick back and relax for the rest of the year. For another chance to win £30,000 £30,000 in tax-free cash, text CASH to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You can enter online at gbnews.com/win. Entries cost £2. Or post your name and number to GB07 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 30th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christies. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threat and so on.
As time passes, she could have said storm. You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
It went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different. Patrick Christies tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Isabelle Webster. Thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It is at 10 o'clock. Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight. A very busy hour to come, let me tell you. Where do we start? The appalling assault on Donald Trump last night was an assault on ideas, an assault on freedom, an assault on opinion, on debate and on democracy. My take at 10 in just a moment. Also, folks, lots to get through regarding England. We are out of the Euros, I'm afraid. We have not prevailed, which is very, very sad news. We'll get reaction from Sam Allardyce. England have lost in the final against Spain 2-1. Big Sam coming up at 15:15. We've also got reaction from my panel tonight. I'm delighted to take a shot of them now if we can. We've got Neil Parish, Linda Jubilee and a brand new star on Mark Dolan tonight from Republicans Overseas UK, Jennifer Ewing. So lots to get through. My take at 10 in just a moment, my reaction to the appalling assault on Donald Trump. But first, let's head over to Germany and a very disappointed GB News reporter, Jack Carson. OK, folks, Jack's not ready. It's live telly. Don't you just love it? We'll get to the football in just a moment. If you're just joining us, England are out. Can I just say, by the way, well done to the lads. They put in a good effort. They gave us a final. Onwards to the World Cup, where victory beckons. OK, folks, it's time first for my take at 10. The appalling assault on Donald Trump last night was an assault on ideas, an assault on freedom, an assault on opinion, an assault on debate, an assault on democracy, and an effort to kill a public figure and former leader of the free world who people simply didn't agree with. That is not acceptable. This was a catastrophe for America and a catastrophe for the free world. And we've been here before. The US has a dark history of political assassinations. And we've had it in the UK too, with the tragic murder in cold blood of Labour MP Joe Cox and Conservative MP David Amess, both fabulous public servants paying with their lives at the hands of dangerous extremists. But for this to happen in the United States, the global beacon of freedom and democracy, is truly chilling. If this happened in a third world dictatorship, it would be bad. For it to happen in the United States, the epicenter of Western values, is beyond chilling. Now, I've never been a Donald Trump cheerleader. I'm not convinced he's fit for high office. He's got a sketchy past with women and finances. And I think it's wrong that he failed to acknowledge his defeat in 2020, with losers' consent being central to the democratic process. And he fanned the flames of conflict with that unseemly assault on the US Capitol on January the 6th. But a monster, he is not. A devil, he is not. Adolf Hitler, he is not. What does he want to do? Well, 750,000 people entered the United States illegally last year. So he'd like to close the border. That is the right thing to do. He wants to cut taxes to grow the economy. People forget his tax cuts in 2016 benefited both rich and poor. Cast as a divisive figure, the fastest growing demographic of support he's currently enjoying is among African-American men under the age of 40. Doesn't sound very divisive to me. Donald Trump wants to strike a deal with Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine. Now, this may or may not be the right strategy. But is it right to cast a man who didn't start any wars whilst president and who wants to end them if he becomes president again as the devil incarnate? Now, I'd much rather have someone like Ron DeSantis in the White House, a coherent public administrator with a majestic grasp of policy detail. DeSantis is a coherent, intelligent man, a principled man as well, who was heroic during COVID when he unlocked Florida a year and a half before California and enjoyed the same, if not better, COVID outcomes. But Donald Trump is the choice of the American right. And to cast him as some kind of deplorable is also to cast the tens of millions of his supporters as deplorables too. They are not. And let me be clear, if I had to choose between an unhinged narcissist like Donald Trump and a man in Joe Biden that can't finish a sentence and doesn't know the name of his own vice president, I will take a president whose brain actually works, who isn't in the throes of senile dementia, and who can be trusted with the nuclear codes. Call me old-fashioned. Now, the media have vilified Donald Trump so much that they've made him a target. They've laid the groundwork and sowed the seeds for that appalling attack last night. If you tell enough people enough times that Donald Trump is the new Hitler, someone is going to try to take him down. What Donald Trump actually is a conservative politician seeking the highest office in the land. Frankly, in my view, the media have blood on their hands. Look at this front page from the left-leaning publication The New Republic, in which they have photoshopped an image of Donald Trump with a Hitler moustache, with the headline, American Fascism. A disgrace. A lot more needs to be done to protect our politicians and public figures on both sides of the pond. It's a sad reality that our own MPs may at some point need 24/7 bodyguards, particularly since the start of the war in Gaza. But that is a small price to pay for our democracy. It's the same reason why I have consistently said, and always will say, that although Prince Harry chose to leave this country and leave the royal family, he must have the highest levels of royal protection wherever he goes. Why? Because he didn't choose to be the king's son. Appalling though last night's attack was, particularly given the tragic death of an innocent bystander who was there simply to cheer on their hero Donald Trump, and of course another badly injured person who's still in hospital, there is one silver cloud to the lining. Donald Trump was not killed. The bullet grazed his ear, and America was about 2 millimeters away from a civil war. If Donald Trump had died last night, there would have been an uprising, the like of which we haven't seen in American history. a crisis of democracy, a breakdown in law and order, the country would simply have fallen over. Tens of millions of people mourning the passing of someone they hoped would save their country. So, as Donald Trump survives, so does the Democratic cause. It's important now that Biden and Trump battle it out in the interest of this great nation. In the end, I always trust the judgment of the public. So may the best man win. It is with God's blessing that both men, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, are still in the race. I will say, however, that Trump's reaction to being shot was quite extraordinary. On his feet within seconds, with a fist raised, that's right, a fist raised, and a simple message to fight on. If you're looking for someone that's going to stand up for their country and bow to no one, you wouldn't have to look much further, would you? Love him or hate him, Donald Trump has got a pair of balls on him. He's a fighter and a survivor, qualities that might just save America. I'll get reaction from my top pundits in just a moment, but we've got to talk about the football because England have lost in the final of Euro 2024. They've gone down 2-1 to Spain, and Jack Carson is in Berlin. Jack, such disappointment. It was amazing when we equalised. What went wrong?
Do you know what, Mark, just watching that game, it never really felt like we were properly in it. We tried, and when Spain went ahead on 47 minutes through Nico Williams, we seemed to get a bit of energy about us, bit of bounce, and we seemed to really want to take it to Spain and want to drive forward. And of course, that's when Gareth Southgate, he'd been criticised during this tournament for not making substitutions early enough. He'd brought on Ollie Watkins on 60 minutes for the captain Harry Kane, a bold decision, of course, in the European Championship final. But we know the impact Watkins, of course, had in the semi-final. Apologies for the language there. And Cole Palmer as well came on. And it was, of course, Cole Palmer that got that equaliser. Great play from Saka. That was the point, in the game that England were really going for it. And of course, Bellingham back to Cole Palmer on the edge of the box. And he was able to slot it home. But of course, after that point, England started to sit back again. Again, it's one of the things that we'd been criticised for in this tournament, to be able to get a goal back, get a goal forward, but start to sit back. And against a team like Spain, who have been the best quality side in this tournament, we knew it was going to be a test. We knew we'd have to look out for the likes of Lamine Yamal and the other Spanish players as a team, how well they were put together, how well they were structured. And in the end, of course, Marc Cucurella found some space on the left-hand side, whipped it in, and Isabelle just managed to nick it at the front post. There was a question of offside, but John Stones, it was seen, was keeping him on, genuinely marked by millimetres. So Isabelle was the winner for Spain. He'd come on as a substitute for Alvaro Morata, the captain for Spain, and in the end, England just didn't have enough in the tank, and the years of hurt go on.
Jack, you seem to be getting a bit of hassle from the Spain fans. Do let me know if you need a bit of support. I'll send in GB News security. Listen, briefly, if you can, England didn't play brilliantly in this tournament, did they? They progressed, which is amazing. They got to the final, but not with sparkling football, and now they're out. They haven't won. Will there be anger directed towards the manager, Gareth Southgate?
It's difficult because, of course, in recent time, he's been probably the most successful England manager in history, of course, bar, back in '66 when we won the World Cup. If you'd have said 10 years ago, Mark, that, that England were going to get to multiple finals of a European Championship, to a semi-final of a World Cup, you would have snapped that person's hand off. So, upon reflection, I think within time, people will be very appreciative of Gareth Southgate. But, of course, the decision really now is up to the FA. It's up to him, of course, because, his contract is up now. He has got a decision to make. Does he stay on for another 2 years? In 2026, when we go to the World Cup, it'll be 60 years, of course, since 1966. So does Gareth Southgate stay on? He commented in a press conference earlier this week that he was too emotionally involved in this tournament to make any kind of decision. If we've won it, it might have been a definite yes. Now that we've lost, of course, and that years of hurt goes on, I don't think there's anger towards Southgate, considering, it's a final, really, with the qualities of the squad, everything goes off the table. table. It's a final. It's a completely different situation. England had done so well to get to this final. You know, yes, there were last-minute goals. Yes, maybe the team hadn't played so well. But, of course, England had got here. We felt like there was some momentum building, some passion building. And teams that win tournaments, you know, as it's been said so many times, grow within the tournaments. We grew and grew, but we just didn't grow high enough, Mark, to get past Spain. And yeah, the hurt goes on.
Listen, Jack, your coverage of the Euros from Germany has been heroic. You've earned yourself a big stein of beer. Go and drown your sorrows with the England fans. Come on, England! Roll on World Cup 2026. Brilliant stuff. Well done to Jack Carlson. He's off to get trolleyed with the fans now. Disappointing, but well done, England. We've heard from the Prince of Wales, who sent a message to the England team in a social media post. A short one, but he said it's time. This time, it just wasn't meant to be. We are all still so proud of you. And I echo that sentiment. OK, folks, let me tell you, at around 10:15, I'll be hearing from Big Sam Allardyce about that. Where do England go from here? And should they sack Gareth Southgate? I think they absolutely should. How many tournaments has he had now? You've got to deliver. If you're England manager, it's just like I've got to deliver for you on Mark Dolan tonight, or you'll sack me. But let me say that you're not sacking me at the moment, because normally about now I'm beating Sky News. All thanks to you. OK, let's get reaction to that awful attack on Donald Trump last night, an attempted assassination. In my view, an assault on democracy. Let's get reaction from our top pundits, journalist and communications advisor Linda Dewberry, former Conservative MP and farmer Neil Parish, and from Republicans Overseas UK, Jennifer Ewing. OK, Linda Dewberry, let me start with you. What are the implications of what happened to Donald Trump last night?
I think that he is almost certainly going to win in November because of this. Because one of the things that happens in the heat of the moment, in the heat of battle, is that you find out the truth about someone. Now, I'm not a particular fan, one way or the other, of Donald Trump, but actually in those initial moments, when you're in tremendous danger, you behave with great courage, or some people sometimes behave in a very cowardly fashion. And what we can see from this is the truth is that whatever way you cut it, Donald Trump behaved with courage and fortitude and determination, and he sent a signal out to the people in the audience. Now, although surveys, and I think GB News did one today, pointed out that this hadn't really made that much difference to how people viewed Trump, I think that's because they're processing it.
Yeah.
And the more that iconic image goes out into the public arena of him with his fist, with the American flag behind him, the more people will start to perceive things a certain way. And perception almost always becomes reality.
I think that's brilliantly put. Neil Parish, your reaction to those scenes last night?
Well, I couldn't agree more with Linda very much that what he did, he showed his true spirit. It was that moment when Prescott thumped that guy that came at him. It was an automatic, punch back. And Trump showed that. He immediately got himself up and he showed true grit. And like I said, whether you love or dislike the man, you've got to give him credit for getting out there. And, of course, I mean, the sad part, of course, is the supporter that was out there that was killed and 2 others injured. And I think they do, the security service there do have quite something to answer, because when you hear that there were people actually seeing this guy going up the roof, they action should have been taken sooner, in my view. But I mean, as far as Trump is concerned, I think it will give him a real bonus. And I think unless the Democrats decide to replace their candidate, Joe Biden, I like Joe Biden, but he's past it, let's be blunt. And so, therefore, it's not his age, it's his capability.
Correct.
There's many 81-year-olds that are more than capable of being President of the United States. And don't forget, if he gets elected, it's for 4 years, so he's not going to get any better. And so now Trump has really, I think, actually, he didn't orchestrate this, but I think what it's done is it's given him this extra momentum. And I think unless the Democrats wake up, it's all over for the elections.
Yes, indeed. Jennifer Ewing, briefly, if you can, we can count our blessings that Donald Trump wasn't killed. A, because he's a human being, we don't want to see somebody die and lose their life, a public figure, but also because it would have been quite the most remarkable crisis for America if he had been slain.
No, absolutely. And, you know, it was centimeters, millimeters away from his head. And that, you know, it was an act of God. You know, that's the only thing that explains it. I know Trump is a man of faith, and I think that's what saved him. But he is famous for saying, they're not after me, they're after you, I'm just in the way. And that literally, we saw that last night. And you mentioned the man who, the hero, Corey Comparatori, 50-year-old man, former volunteer fire chief, who died literally saving his wife and his daughter. And I mean, that's true heroism as well. And the other people, the supporters, the Trump supporters that, you know, when the shooting was going on, I mean, they gathered around Trump. So this is not just about him. It's a real movement that he's started, whether you want to call it America First or MAGA, which people say in a derogatory way. It's a real movement of people, and Trump has inspired that.
Well, lots more on that attempted assassination of Donald Trump at 10:30 in the papers with my top pundits. But next up, England have lost in the final of the Euros against Spain. They've gone down 2-1 to Spain. They got to the final but didn't quite finish the job. I'll get reaction from legendary Premier League manager and former England gaffer Big Sam Allardyce next.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
It's true. You're not wrong. No one will be cancelled.
Lovely. Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
Now, time for the best part of the show, our Greatest Britain, where we share amazing people who do amazing things. And this week, that is Dr. Leo Cheng and the Reverend Hilary Cheng.
Well, Dr. Chen regularly serves as a volunteer surgeon aboard the Mercy ships in West Africa and has recently served his 17th mission aboard the ships. He volunteers with his wife, Reverend Hilary Cheng, a Methodist minister in the UK.
Thank you for joining us, and what a privilege. So just briefly explain, what are Mercy ships?
Well, Mercy ship provide world-class surgery on the ship, and the ship then sail to these poorest of the poor country because there's no infrastructure to get road or rail there. And we offer free surgery and also education, training of medical staff, and partner with the local or the host nation to build up their surgical and anaesthetic services.
So how long have you been travelling West Africa? You go on all these different ships, different ports, and you treat the needy and the vulnerable. How long have you both been doing this?
20 years.
20 years?
Just over 20 years.
And you take the time to do this out of your own holiday from work. Why do you do it?
Well, because I'm indebted to the education in this country with all the qualification I get. And NHS is great. I love the NHS because without NHS, we see cases that we see in the low-income country. And I want to make use of my hand to help those people who have no way of helping themselves, because the tumours, the deformities, not just a physical ailment, but it's being ostracised and die early, commit suicide because they've been ostracised by their family.
When you're on the ship, you are seeing the very worst that the country can offer. I find it a great privilege to work alongside these people.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. The papers at 10:30 with full pundit reaction. But first, England have lost to Spain in the finals of Euro 2024. So that dream of a major trophy once again eludes us. What went wrong? Let's speak to legendary Premier League manager and former England gaffer, Big Sam Allardyce. Sam, what went wrong?
It's quite simple, Mark. We just weren't as good as Spain on the night. I mean, I think that we all knew that Spain were the favourites by the way they played. England had scraped through a few of the games throughout the group stages, and it was too much for England tonight. A brave fight midway through the second half when Palmer scored, but we never really took the initiative after that. And in the end, Spain deserved to win. Much better than we were, unfortunately.
Do you think we played better in the semi-final, the previous game? It was a more spirited performance, wasn't it?
Yes, but you can only play as well as the opposition allow you to play, and Spain closing down from the front and squeezing high, as well as the talent they've got throughout the side.
Yeah,
was shutting England off today. I mean, we really couldn't find any way through until we brought some substitutes on, fresh legs, started playing forward better, playing in behind, and scored. I mean, Palmer again scored an absolutely wonderful goal to get us back in the game. I did think by that time we had the initiative, but then we just seemed to drop off again, sadly, and let Spain back into the game, and ultimately paid the price, which was a very good goal by Spain, to be fair.
Sam, you managed at the top level and you were England gaffer as well. The Premier League is the most watched sporting league on the planet. It's the biggest league for football. It's a multi-billion-pound industry with an enormous global audience. So when it comes to Premier League and English club football, we are world beaters, aren't we? Manchester United, Man City, Chelsea, they are global brands of football. But why do the England national team struggle to win the big trophies?
Just exactly what you say, Mark. We employ and bring more players, more foreign players, into the Premier League in England than any other country in the world.
Right.
And that blocks the way for our young talent. There is no doubt about that. But you're never going to stop that. You're never going to stop that by the fact that because it's a multi-billion-pound industry now, the foreign players, nearly all of them in the end, want to come and play in England, and that blocks up the young players that are developing. It also blocks up the academies, because the academies are now full of young players from abroad as well, as young as 16 now, going up to 18. So the limited process for an English-British player is limited now. So I think we've done rather well to find the amount of talent that we have with that block, you know. So we're not going to change that, but this England side put up a brave fight, but we obviously need to get that a little bit better. I think the squad overall is the best we've had, but the 11 tonight were not as good as Spain were.
What did you make of team selection?
I would say that I could understand it, but I think that it was crying out again for the substitutions to be earlier. I think that once we got to half time and maybe give them 10 minutes and say to the lads, look, if it doesn't get better, lads, I'm going to make 2 or 3 substitutions, because that's what turned the game again. But it came too late this time, and we couldn't then enhance that particular change. We had Spain on the back foot. We should have put maybe another sub on as quick as that and try and keep the pressure on Spain. But it didn't work this time, and it didn't work because Spain, in the end, I think whether we made the substitutes or not, I think they were better than we were and probably would have won the game.
Sam, you've always been very diplomatic about Gareth Southgate. I honestly wish that you had remained as gaffer. Do you think that he should consider his position now? I mean, we can't be seriously considering renewing his contract and giving him the World Cup in 2 years, can we?
I know that's up to him and the FA. I think 8 years is a long stint to be England manager. In fact, Gareth should have aged a lot more than he has with the pressure. There's no doubt about that. I'm telling you now, you're on that dugout for 8 years at international level. That takes some toll on your mind and your body. So I think he's had a fair crack at the whip. I think he'll make the decision pretty quickly. Let us say this, though. The problem we have is the managers are just like the players. We're full of foreign managers in the Premier League. Where's the next British manager or English manager to take over? And the fear for me would be that the FA would go and choose a foreign manager. And for me, for English football, English players, coaches, that would be an absolute disaster.
What is the prognosis for England in what is now the run-up to the World Cup? Can we be optimistic about taking a lot of the achievements that have been made at the Euros into the World Cup?
Well, I think that more of the younger players have actually stood out better. Mayhew, Palmer, Gordon, Watkins. So I think those lads, Gahey, centre-back, you know, I think they've been exceptionally good. You know, they've really stood up to the task and the pressure, you know, but obviously this time it hasn't quite got us over the line again, you know, and I think that's down to the quality of the team we played against. As compared to the last time we were in the final, we played a poor side in Italy and failed to beat them, and that was the biggest blow of all. When you see what Italy have done since then, they didn't qualify for the World Cup and got knocked out pretty early in this tournament. So that was probably a bigger chance than this one.
Big Sam, I always feel very privileged to have you on the show. You have managed at the top level, and thank you for your wise thoughts on England's departure from the Euros. We'll catch up soon. My thanks to Big Sam Allardyce. England have not won in the Euros. They've gone down 2-1 to Spain. A good effort. We got to the final, but no cigar. And let me put it on record that Gareth Southgate has got to go. Don't talk to me about how he's the most successful manager since Sir Alf Ramsey. If you don't win stuff, you're not successful. I can't believe that he's been manager for that long. Bring back Sam Allardyce. I'm not even joking. That man knows more about football than almost anyone in the game. OK, the paper's next with full pundit reactions. See you in 2.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Many of us are ending this weekend on a reasonably calm note. We do have some clear spells around, particularly across Wales, central southern areas of England, Northern Ireland and western Scotland, also seeing a dry start to the night. There is a bit of rain and drizzle around though for the northeastern areas, particularly developing and pepping up across the Firth of Forth into Edinburgh way during the second half of the night. Many of us though seeing temperatures hold up around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. For your early morning rush hour then on Monday, there will be a little bit of cloud around, certainly for the northeast of Scotland, some drizzle underneath all of that, perhaps some misty, murky conditions, particularly around some coastal areas. But generally further towards the west, there will be some quite bright sunshine first thing. Still, though, that drizzle perhaps lingering through the central belt. Northern Ireland getting off to a pretty fine start for this new working week, some sunny spells in there, and also for parts of northern England it will be much brighter compared to recent days that we have seen, feeling a touch better here. For the far south though, it is this area of rain that we have our eyes on. This will be turning very heavy very quickly as we head throughout the morning, with some thundery downpours, possible torrential rain. There could certainly be some difficulties on the roads and travelling, so do take care here. And there is a rain warning in force for southwest England and Wales throughout much of Monday. That will steadily push its way northwards, perhaps skirting into eastern areas as well. Feeling a little cool underneath that rain, 18-19 degrees Celsius, but the northern half of the UK faring quite well, around 20-21 degrees Celsius here, just with an ice or shower to watch out for. Into Tuesday, that area of low pressure that's bringing the rain to the southwest will just sort of slowly grind to a halt across some central areas, so it is still with us. The band of rain will be swirling its way around first thing on Tuesday for parts of Wales, the Midlands, into parts of Yorkshire and Lancashire as well. Behind that, we'll start to see some sunny spells and showers developing again. Some of those will be on the sharp side at times. Wednesday looks like it could be a slightly drier day for many of us, but there is further rain on the cards towards the end of the week. Bye-bye.
I'm Patrick Christies. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
As time passes, she could have said stump.
You made my argument for me.
My guest and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
Went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christies tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
OK, folks, well, look, it's exactly... it's just gone 10:30, 10:32, and we've got tomorrow's papers, but because of the England game, all of the papers are late. We've just got one, and it is the Metro, so let's have a look. And the Metro newspaper has a headline, is, of course, about what is the biggest story of the weekend, arguably the biggest story of the year. Former President Donald Trump shot at rally. Show of defiance. A bloodied Donald Trump raises his fist as agents bundle him off the stage where he was speaking when bullets were fired. And how about this? Trump's would-be assassin, a Republican. Now, producer Mescana has said that there's a lot of noise online about this issue, that many suggesting it's fake news. But the paper report the gunman who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump was at a rally in Pennsylvania and was a registered Republican voter. Thomas Crooks, who was 20, was shot dead by Secret Service agents as the ex-president was bundled away with blood on his face. A man in the crowd named as Corey Comparator, age 50, also tragically died. OK, that is just one of the papers. We'll get more as they come thick and fast. But reaction from my top pundits this evening. Journalist and communications advisor Linda Dewberry, former Conservative MP and farmer Neil Parish, and spokesperson for Republicans Overseas UK, Jennifer Ewing. Jennifer, let me start with you. Many are not having this story, the notion that it was a Republican that shot at Donald Trump, that this was somehow political friendly fire. What do you know about the situation?
Well, what I do know is where he was registered as a Republican, that's true. In Pennsylvania, they have what's called a closed primary. So that means you need to sort of vote within the party that you're registered for. So what we saw a lot in the primaries, we saw it with Democrats registering to vote for Nikki Haley against Donald Trump.
Right.
What's quite possible is that he, and we don't know, of course, but that he registered as a Republican to vote against Trump. What we also know is he, personally, 20 years old, made a donation to Act Blue, which is very progressive, and both of his parents are Democrats.
And this Act Blue is basically a left-leaning organisation?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
So this is a little, with all due respect to the Metro, this is a little low information headline.
Well,
there.
is it a bit of misinformation or fake news?
No,
Jennifer?
he was registered as a Republican.
Will establishment media in America run with this? Because it rather kills the story slightly, doesn't it? That the idea that Donald Trump was attacked on ideological grounds.
Yeah. I mean, you know what's funny, Mark, is people, depending on the news they consume, especially if they do not check it against something else. I mean, I'd like to think all of us here, I read and listen and watch things that are left, right, centre, up, down. You don't want an echo chamber. So hopefully the public at large, even if the MSM is running with this, will go, wait a minute, let me look into this.
Well, I totally agree. You know, if I want proper sort of left-wing input, I'll watch the BBC from time to time. Neil, first of all, go on, what were you going to say?
I was just saying, it's a slight weakness, dare I say it, in American politics, in as much that you can register either as a Republican or as a Democrat, but you don't necessarily need to be that party. What you can do is register and then vote for the weakest candidate of that party, because then you further the cause of the Democrats or the Republicans, whichever you're going for. And that's why I prefer not to have these sort of primaries, because they're nowhere near as democratic as they're made out to be, because everything in political life, you can always find a way around it. And I suspect this guy may have been registered as a Republican, but he may not have been a Republican. Now, whether we're going to be able to solve that with you here tonight or not, I very much doubt it. But it's an interesting fact, and I think the fact that he was registered as a Republican may mean a lot, may not, because I think people do all sorts of jiggery-pokery in order to try and influence a weak candidate for the party they don't want to get in. And of course, when Trump was sort of riding high and is riding high, there would be others trying to stop him, and he may have been one of these people to do that.
Linda?
I tell you what, though, all this speculation will go on and people will churn it all over and they will be reading social media, they'll be watching everything. But I go back to what I said at the start. The picture tells 1,000 words.
Yeah.
And this is the picture
Yes.
that people will remember.
They will.
Because it's so iconic on every level, even down to the women's security officer leaning down across his body and his fist pumped high into the air, and the American flag, just by chance, in the perfect position.
Correct.
I don't mean to sound callous, but people are going to remember that iconic image again and again and again.
Well, you've been reporting on politics for decades, and you know that a big part of politics is acting. It's a performance. Politicians have a persona. They've got their speeches. They've got advisors. Even Margaret Thatcher had elocution lessons. But this was a moment of authenticity from Donald Trump. He couldn't have practiced this.
No.
This was a moment in which he showed his true self, his true character.
And I think that's what will keep rising to the surface, was his immediate and authentic reaction in the heat of battle, if you like. That's what people are going to remember.
Well, if you're looking for somebody to save America and lead them out of their current woes, look no further. Will be the suggestion from what happened yesterday.
I mean, I'm not a particular fan of Donald Trump, but I was really, really impressive with the way that came out of that
if you
bubble.
were in the States and you had the vote, would you look more kindly on him, or would you be more inclined to vote for him after what happened?
It has made me think, but we shouldn't forget that Joe Biden, less than 2 hours ago, roughly 2 hours ago, did give a very fluent and cogent speech that had good content about why this was
but probably written by a 23-year-old intern, one would suspect.
And also the trouble is, then he fluctuates and then he doesn't know his own name hardly.
Did he say stop speaking now at the end of the speech? Did he find the podium?
Did he mention President Putin at the same time? No, he didn't.
Make no mistake. That was
no, I know where you're coming from.
I listened to all of it.
You think it was an impressive speech? And he does sometimes choose his words well.
And it wouldn't... Well, he has a history of choosing his words well, but I would be the first person to say the Democrats need a new leader. I'd be the very first... Well, not the first person.
Well, Jennifer, I asked a top Republican insider about this earlier in the show. Is it more difficult for the Democrats to remove Joe Biden now? Because that's certainly what the Telegraph is saying in tomorrow's papers. They're saying that the Democrats have now missed their moment to get him out.
Actually, I don't really think what happened yesterday makes a difference for what the Democrats are going to do. Biden was on track to lose to Donald Trump, right? Because people vote on policies. Economy, inflation, the crisis we have at the open southern border, which is definitely due to Biden, because the day he got into office, he put a line through all of Trump's policies. We now have over 10 million illegal people who've come through the border.
Biden was due to lose before all the before all the jumbled phrases, wasn't he?
Absolutely. And look, I'm somebody, I think I've been saying it on that desk over there for 1 year. There is no way Joe Biden can be the nominee in November. We could see the cognitive decline starting years ago, right?
Well, I called it in 2020. Was that premature?
No, I don't think so. And I think there was a wonderful cover for him, because he could stay in the basement because of COVID.
But you see, we're not just talking about... We're not just talking about now, are we? November 2020,
we're talking about the next 4 years.
24. There's, he's got to go on to 28. And, as I said before, a lot of 81-year-olds are very, very up to it. But
Correct.
you see, the trouble is he is deteriorating, and I rather fear he will deteriorate more. And you can't put a president of the United States in like that. So I think, they will. I think the Democrats, if they've got, the will, they will actually change the candidate. And you see, he won't be fully endorsed, as Jennifer was saying, until August. So therefore, I would have thought... I don't understand all of American politics, but I would understand they have time to be able to change it.
With any form of dementia, it only goes in one direction. It doesn't come
And of course, one symptom of dementia can be stubbornness.
Yes.
And it could be that Joe Biden's refusal to leave is a factor in his illness.
Yes.
Although notoriously hard to unseat a president that doesn't want to go.
No, well, you're right.
You don't have votes of confidence in the House of Commons.
No, and you have the 25th Amendment, but that's tricky. But basically, what you don't have votes of confidence, and it has to be his decision. So, and he's got his wife and shockingly, his son Hunter Biden are his two biggest advisors right now. They don't want to go because they've been doing this grift of influence peddling for years. The Bidens have, unlike the Trumps, they don't have a family business, so they need to have this continue. I think what will end up happening, because the pressure's building after that debate. Those of us who've been watching his decline for several years, no surprise. The media, it was no surprise. They just had to feign surprise because they've been running cover for him.
They've been lying for 4 years,
Of
as
course.
I said in my Take a 10
Of
last night.
course.
Briefly, if you can, do you think Donald Trump was let down by his security personnel last night? Were they asleep at the wheel?
Well, I mean, look, I'm not a security expert, but you're asking me because I do not know how somebody was able to get within 150 yards on a rooftop with a clear shot to the president. That definitely has to be investigated.
We're hearing Neil Allardyce. Was it 4 minutes that one of the bystanders alerted the police for 4 minutes before anything was done?
I mean, I think that's the problem.
Interview.
I think, and you really, I mean, what I hope comes out of all this, because thank goodness, Donald Trump was not killed, but of course, like I said, a supporter was. And this has to be looked at very, very seriously by security services, because no way should he have been. And, you had a number of people actually saying, there is a guy climbing up the roof. For goodness sake, all right, yes, eventually the sniper took him out, but it was too late by then, wasn't it? Basically?
Well, it was. Linda, Joe Biden has ordered a security review. Donald Trump, one of the most famous men in the world, likely to be the next president, and yet he can be exposed in such a way. I think that this is going to be. I think there will be recriminations, don't you think?
You have to take it really, really seriously. I mean, we've had problems in this country, but I can tell you, for example, that when Suella Braverman visited my constituency, which is Beaconsfield, when she was in the cabinet, she came with 20 close protection officers, one woman.
Wow.
There you go.
That's what we live in an age, a terribly perilous age.
The Italian, when I was in the European Parliament, I had the Italian agriculture minister come to see me because I was chairman of the agriculture committee, and he had 10 heavy with him. The Italians are highly protected. Now, can I throw this?
Because of the mafia?
Yeah, exactly. Can I throw a googly into it? Because I know you talked about.
I've wanted to see your googlies for a long time.
You're not going
What's a googly?
You're not going to see. You're not going to see. It's a type of ball with cricket. But like I said, the Telegraph is talking about George Clooney, aren't they, running as a presidential candidate for the Democrats. So I wanted to ask you, if they were to put up George Clooney, would he cause you more grief or less grief?
No, I mean, look, I think I maintain it will not be Biden. The easiest path for them, and they're in a terrible situation, is Kamala Harris, and she polls even lower than the very unpopular Biden, who is at 32% at this point. However, one thing she does have is youth, right? And she will be able to make a decision and ask a question. Might not be what we want, but look, this is all sorts of crazy things could happen at the convention, but it is down to Biden. He does not want to go. He ran for president so many times. His family doesn't want to give him up. George Clooney, obviously, he ran that statement that he put on the New York Times.
Not first time you've got an actor, is it, has run for president?
Lots of interesting stories floating around, because it is possible that Michelle Obama could step into the race and replace Joe Biden. Talk of George Clooney becoming the nominee. Extraordinary speculation about who might replace Joe Biden. We're going to debate that next, plus more front pages. And England have lost to Spain in the final of the Euros. Should the FA now sack Gareth Southgate? We'll debate that next.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
In World War I, 309 men from Britain and the Commonwealth never came home because they'd been shot at dawn. The majority were killed for desertion, cowardice and sleeping at post. Appearing at their court-martials and told they'd brought shame on their country, these men had no opportunity to defend themselves and were executed by a firing squad. The National Memorial Arboretum launched a fundraising campaign to restore the memorial, which has stood for more than 20 years.
thank you to your viewers for their support for the fundraising campaign. And thanks to the generosity of so many people, we've been able to replace all 309 of the posts that represent those young men that were shot in the First World War, restoration of this really precious memorial.
The centrepiece of the memorial is the young soldier, blindfolded and facing his execution. In September 1916, Private Harry Farr was ordered to the front. Already suffering from shell shock, he was overwhelmed and refused his orders. He was court-martialed, and in a trial lasting only 20 minutes, he was sentenced to death. On the day of his execution, he faced the firing squad without a blindfold. Janet Booth is Private Farr's granddaughter and was part of the public campaign to have those who were shot at Dawn officially pardoned.
When I asked my gran, do you know where I could find Harry's grave? And she looked at my mother, and there was this sort of look between them, and then she said, well, he hasn't got a grave because they didn't warrant, he deserved one because he was shot as a coward and had let his country down. We can come here as a family and pay our respects to him, and also for all the other families, it's somewhere to come and remember their loved ones.
The People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christies. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats and so on.
As time passes, she could have said Storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter with a sharp take on every story.
It went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
Or I can become something different.
Patrick Christies tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Businessman or woman.
OK, folks, I've got the Daily Star here. We're just waiting to get the graphic up on the screen. Let me read it to you. There it is. There's the front page. That's old school. Daily Star. Lions did us proud. Heartache after Spain pip England 2-1. OK, look, we'll come back to Donald Trump in just a moment and whether the media have blood on their hands. But Linda Jubilee... England, once again, don't win a major trophy. Is there a cultural problem in England when it comes to playing football and the winning mentality?
I don't think it's cultural, but it's possible there could be some kind of psychological block here that just builds and builds and amplifies all the time. I mean, how long is it since we've won?
66.
66. Just astonishing.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? What do you think about Gareth Southgate? I think he's had 6 years. He's considering whether to sign a new contract for another 2 years. He's won nothing. I think he's got to go. What do you think?
I think probably he would want to go. I think that he would...
Why is it even his choice? I mean, is English football so pathetic that we don't fire managers who don't deliver?
Yeah, we should. We should be...
You know what I mean?
Meritocracy.
You know, if you were the manager of Chelsea in 6 years and you've not won anything, you're dust, Neil Parish.
Yeah, I mean, I think... what I would say about England, I think the good part of the result is at least we scored a goal against Spain, all right? They scored 2 against us.
It's a very English response.
Yeah, no, but it is, because if we'd gone down to 1-0 and haven't been able to score a goal, then I think our heads would have been down. But I think we actually played well. I mean, Southgate got a lot of stick because, you know, we hadn't quite done this, but we did get to the final. Italy didn't get to the final, for goodness sake.
Yeah, but he always gets us to the semis.
It's easy for us. It's easy for you, Mark, and me, and Linda. We all sit here, right, and say it should be done better. But I think we did get to the final. Yeah, yes, we would have loved
never
won.
win.
But
he's had 6 years.
I can remember 1966. I was 10, and I can remember Bobby Charlton and all those things, but only just. But no, but seriously, it is a long time ago. I get that.
He was Alf Ramsey was a winner.
If a politician loses in the
yeah.
what happens?
Listen, I'm so glad we've got an American in the studio because the Americans are Darwinian. It's win at all costs.
Yes.
And this guy, he's got to go.
I mean, look, I don't want to pretend I'm, a soccer pundit. Sorry, football are different words.
You've seen the results.
I've seen the results. And, he hasn't won. Why is he still there? Get someone else.
What I find really
Get somebody else.
insulting about this, Jennifer, is that he's made a statement saying that a decision on his future is not for now. Well, it shouldn't be his decision at all. I think he should have gone years ago. I think you get one tournament, and if you don't win, you're out. Look, all those wasted years, those golden generations of footballers, bring back Big Sam is what I would do. Listen, can we go back to Donald Trump now? Because it is a massive story. I make no apologies for covering it in such detail. Neil Parish, are the media culpable, characterising Donald Trump as Adolf Hitler, calling him a fascist?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's helped, has it? And it shouldn't, we should never...
Is he a fascist? Is he Adolf Hitler?
No, I don't think he is a fascist. I mean, I don't agree with all his views, but he's a...
Well, that's because you're a Tory wet.
He's a strong...
You're a bedwetting lefty.
He's a strong... How dare you?
Are you?
Seriously, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. But he's just exaggerating.
Can I tell you, he's got a picture of David Cameron in his bedroom. I've seen it.
Oh, my God.
I don't think you have. You've been in my bedroom, so you haven't seen a picture of David Cameron.
Sue put it up.
But no, seriously, I think he's not. I think, when you start portraying any politician in these extreme ways, it's like when we do an extreme left, extreme right of politics, it's bad. And I think, this is not help. Now, has it directly caused that guy to make the assassination attempt? I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but I think it doesn't help hyping the whole thing up.
One of the things is, and with all due respect, Jennifer...
Of course.
The gun laws
Where's this going?
Different in America. You can buy bullets in the supermarket at 3 different states, maybe 4 different states in America. Now, if you put an incendiary flare into the media in America, the chances are someone's going to be able to pick up a gun, pick up the bullets, and do something.
And I'm hearing from producer Maria that the gun he used, the firearm, was purchased legally. Also, here, want to get your response to Nigel Farage's comments that the media are culpable, or at least may have blood on their hands. What do you think about that, Jennifer?
I mean, look, the person responsible was the shooter, absolutely, right? Yeah. However, you cannot have all of the mainstream media in America and the Biden administration and other Democrats constantly telling the world that democracy will be destroyed if Donald Trump gets reelected, that he is Hitler-esque, that are...
Well, there's a line.
Exactly. I mean, somebody with mental health issues, and I'm sorry, I mean, we're never giving up our guns. It's the Second Amendment.
I knew that.
A lot of the gun issues are actually mental.
Jennifer, hold fire. Jennifer is packing heat tonight, so watch yourselves.
But you see, a a 20-year-old with a high-powered rifle that can legally have that and actually go and try and assassinate Donald Trump. We would not allow that to happen here, and that's where I disagree with the Americans.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, Neil, and Linda. Congratulations to Linda's son, who's newly married.
Yes.
He came back from the wedding Friday at 8.
Yeah.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. This is your GB News weather update provided by the Met Office. Many of us are ending this weekend on a reasonably calm note. We do have some clear spells around, particularly across Wales, central southern areas of England, Northern Ireland and western Scotland, also seeing a dry start to the night. There is a bit of rain and drizzle around though for the northeastern areas, particularly developing and pepping up across the Firth of Forth into Edinburgh way during the second half of the night. Many of us though seeing temperatures hold up around 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. For your early morning rush hour then on Monday, there will be a little bit of cloud around, certainly for the northeast of Scotland, some drizzle underneath all of that, perhaps some misty, murky conditions, particularly around some coastal areas. But